Hello, welcome to Phantasmic Pixels, a retro gaming themed podcast featuring Sigma X and Crying Freeman. Join us as we reminisce on the more finer delicacies of an age long forgotten. Allow me to show you to your seats and enjoy the show.
Hello everybody, welcome to the third episode of Phantasmic Pixels. I'm Sigma X, also known as Brandon
Freeman.
We got the Crying Freeman here, and we also have a special guest with us joining us today. Hello.
John Hancock.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, John Hancock.
Say you have me today, Mr. Saturn, or Wyatt.
Yeah.
So, I played Tekken, and it's shit.
Oh yeah, we got Tekken 1 from a secondhand game store, and we brought it back.
It's really bad. The controls are shit. Like, they don't make... it's just very stiff.
Yeah,
it feels like you're playing a rock.
Like, so many people are so well versed with because most people, when they talk about Tekken, they usually refer to like the best,
the good ones.
Tekken 3, Tekken 5. I thought Tekken. Apparently, a lot of people hate Tekken 4 as well.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm not really sure the reason for that, but yeah. So
for a space ninja, Yoshimitsu is
pretty. He
does feel like he's from space though. Zero gravity. He floats around quite a bit.
Well, I don't know. It's not Virtua Fighter bad, but it's.
They tried to be that bad.
Yeah, right.
Well, I can't say Virtua Fighter when I ever played it. The only other things I've been playing, I've been playing some iOS games, so you guys are gonna crucify me. So Symphony of the Night port for fucking iOS is pretty good, I have to say.
I mean, play that shit with a controller. It's not a problem.
You can play with a controller, yeah. I will say, on the iPad, specifically the Pro, the fucking like two gigantic 13-inch one that I love the screen of. So they don't resize the buttons based on what model you're playing on. So the buttons are as big as like an iPhone screen's buttons. I just like keep getting fucking demolished because I keep not hitting my attack buttons or anything. But it's basically an exact port of the PSP game, which was just ported to PS4 with the Requiem. It's identical. It has everything. This is just the same, just slightly different UI. It's a wicked good port. It runs perfectly fine. All the good audio looks great, and it has controller support for both DualShock and Xbone. So
okay, dope.
It's very playable.
Yeah, you've been really in the iOS, like, fucking...
I'm becoming an Apple douche.
Well, you got the iPad recently.
I'm slowly being converted,
Dude,
and it's awful.
My only problem with that, because I used to buy a lot of games off the iOS stores.
Oh, no, they are shit about that.
So many of those games you can't even play anymore.
Like Rayman 2 and, like...
The fucking...
the downside.
And Baroque. Like, I wanted to play fucking Baroque on my iPad. What the fuck, guys?
What's Baroque?
It's cool. A really cool
Yeah,
title.
It's a really cool game. It's basically a roguelike on PS2.
Oh, yeah.
Where you descend this tower, and these fucking weird monsters fuck you up.
And it actually has a Wii port, and it actually originated as a Sega Saturn
really?
title.
And yet
Japanese only.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the Saturn one is first person, but the PS2 Wii one is third.
That's really interesting.
And the iOS one is a port of the PS2 Wii version.
Okay. Well, Saturn games aren't exactly very heavy in the re-releases, so...
Yeah.
But it's cool. iOS does offer some... interesting variations and ports of games. Even some of the Sonic titles did quite well on iOS.
Well, that's because those are
life improvements.
It's funny you brought that up.
Journey.
Because the Christian White, those Sonic ports.
Yeah, Christian Whitehead.
Yeah, so he basically the issue ever, the whole Sonic was never good fucking criticism. Yeah, fuck you, why? You're the 9-year-old Sonic fanboy in me gets really fucking mad when you say like I can feel him coming out. Like
I'm an 8-year-old Sonic.
He's like getting really mad, but like yeah, no, the enhanced versions of Sonic 1 and 2 by Christian Whitehead, which are only on iOS for some reason.
They're on Android too, but like...
Yeah, so it's weird to think the best way to play Sonic 1 and 2
on mobile.
is
you
on
could
mobile.
emulate the Android versions on your PC, which I've done.
And the Apple TV.
And you can do the Apple TV, yeah.
I forgot about that.
iPad Pro, you can plug into any HDMI source, so you can play them with a wireless gamepad too if you want.
Yeah. All right, so what have you been playing, Wyatt?
So, for me, I've been currently playing through Grandia on the PlayStation 1, which has been a really enjoyable experience so far. The battle system, at times, it does shine most of the time, but there are a lot of encounters that...
Yeah.
They are not random encounters. You can see the enemies on the overworld, but some of the battles do get a little tedious, and one of the biggest gripes I have is the XP system, where you're not necessarily getting a lot of XP for your battles. But if you want to feel like you're overleveled at any point, it certainly
takes time.
It takes time, and I don't know if it would necessarily be worth it. But Grandia so far has been going well. I'm enjoying going through, enjoying the plot, the storyline, if you will, the characters. It's very lighthearted.
I should mention, we played the intro to it for very briefly to test out the S-Video cables for PlayStation 1, and oh my god, what a fucking beautiful game.
Exceptionally beautiful game, and I will say this is one of my, I will die on the hill and say that, Grandia 2 is not a good game.
No.
Grandia 1 succeeds in every way that Grandia 2
I mean, honestly, like, I've only briefly touched, so... For anyone watching, I know jack shit about Grandia, so
Me too, yeah.
So please take what I say with a grain of salt. But I did start Grandia 2, like, very briefly. And because that's, the Dreamcast is not known for having RPGs. It's got, fucking Skies of Arcadia and Grandia 2 and...
Those are the big ones, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the Evolution games, but they're not really...
Shenmue's an RPG. No, but seriously. So I looked at Grandia 2, because for those who don't know, Grandia 1 kind of has that... 2D sprites in a 3D background kind of thing.
Exactly.
And it looks really charming because it doesn't
like
look...
Ys Origins.
Yeah. No, does Ys Origins actually do that?
Yeah, it has sprites on 3D.
So it's like aged really well because of that.
No, it has. And I would say that the one thing I enjoy about Grandia is the way that it's structured. It feels very much like a lighthearted journey where the stakes keep rising.
Yeah.
If you think about any of the, like 90s animes, even just for someone who would have common knowledge, even watching the original Pokemon series, how they go from town to town and they have an event that happens, they solve a problem, help the town and move forward, and they get character development. It's very much like that. You feel very satisfied after each location because the little storylines within are bite-sized, they go by quick, they don't overstay their welcome.
And much like every RPG.
So,
It's not so wholesome.
It's a very wholesome game. I would say that it's very, very wholesome. The main character, Justin, he just wants to be an adventurer like his father, and he eventually gets an opportunity to venture out to find the lost city of Angelo near the end of the world. So
that's the most American protagonist name I've ever heard.
For, but you don't hear it very much in a JRPG though, to hear Justin. But so currently been playing Grandia, and I'm recently planning on starting a playthrough of the game Crystar on the PlayStation 4, which is an action RPG. I will say to the eBay seller out there who screwed me over and did not send me the NTSC copy I ordered, but instead a PAL copy.
You fucking jerk.
You are a scumbag. I'm still waiting for you to get me the copy I deserve, or we're filing a claim fairly soon.
Did he say it was like NTSC? Was it like
listed as a used NTSC copy? I paid $75, and I got sent a sealed PAL copy. He said he made a mistake with his orders. I think it's damage control. I think that I'm not getting my copy, and I'm going to get my money back and keep the copy.
Lucky for you, eBay is very, very good about refunds.
He probably thought you wouldn't notice, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
You guys have no fucking idea. I've bought like 5, maybe not 5, but I bought like 2 to 3 PVMs from fucking eBay. Yeah. You can't ship those fucking things. They're CRTs. Like they're gonna fuck up.
No, I mean people on eBay at times are largely I've had positive experiences. But sellers like that, they're just trying. They don't think you're gonna know any different. But jokes on you. I do. I collect. I know.
Oh yeah. So. That's the thing. Which is actually the main topic, but we're going to wait for that. So I definitely wanted to currently discuss the next-gen consoles. And so the PS5 and Xbox Series X.
And the Nintendo Switch.
Well, I mean...
Nintendo Switch Pro, man.
To be fair, the Wii U, like, with the Wii U and the Switch, like, I guess, like, you could say that the PS4 and the Xbox One were competing against the Wii U, and then, like...
And then, Nintendo kind of fucked with their timing, because they had to leave the Wii U in the dust so quick.
Yeah. So, I personally am not really sold on the next-gen consoles so far. Like, I think they still need some time to... And it's just like, I'm hearing about all these technical errors and buzz, and...
Massive problem.
The PS5's just a giant brick.
Yeah.
There was this guy who's like, oh, my Series X has, like, vape coming out of it, but that turned out being...
That was all fake.
That was completely fake. Just some moment for, like, I don't know.
Didn't Microsoft tweet out something like, do not blow
vape
smoke into your Xbox?
I absolutely love, PR like that. That's really funny.
Oh my god.
The one thing that does really interest me about the PS5, though, that I do really appreciate, because I didn't get a PS4 Pro. I skipped over that completely. Just because, like, I already had a PS4. The Pro looked like it was too much for what is essentially a little upgrade. But what I'm noticing about games lately is that it seems like developers are starting to much more prioritize, like, frame rate and performance over fidelity and graphics. Because a lot of these games that they're offering have an option for smooth frame rate.
Which is amazing.
I think that's awesome.
That's a great
It's, like, about time, you know?
Yeah. Because, I mean, as we were discussing earlier today, even when we look back at the generation with the PS3 and 360, just how poorly those frame rates hold up on those consoles.
Oh my god.
Terrible.
Especially, like, PS3 ports, like you'd have Bayonetta 1 early on.
And it's just a mess. and it just feels so like if you go back and try to play even the first Dark Souls on the 360 or PS3,
I've heard of the Blight Town.
It is amazing.
Terrible. It's like it's amazing just how sluggish everything feels.
I've heard of the joy that is Blight Town and how it really fucks with your frame rate.
Oh, it's awful.
It's really terrible.
You basically have to play that version on the Xbox One to get any sort of playable speeds on there.
Oh man, that's so. What's funny though, like about the Series X, I know this is a weird game for benchmarking, but Sonic Unleashed, which is like notorious for having terrible frame rates, especially at Adabat, which is like this Hawaii water fucking themed level. People are using Series X as like a benchmark for it, and it's like, guys, it's been 14. I don't know how long Sonic Unleashed has been out for.
I think it's 2008 or so.
I think 08 sounds fair.
Holy fuck, it's actually really sad to think about.
I remember when it was new too.
Oh, man. But anyways, they've been using Adabat to benchmark it, and they're like, yo guys, it's been this many years, but we can finally fucking run Sonic Unleashed with no issues. I'm like, this is incredible. Wow.
I'd like to bring up, I do enjoy that portion about the next gen consoles and the fact that they offer backwards compatibility for
That's
PS4
awesome.
titles, and plus they enhance them and give them an opportunity
It's beautiful.
to really succeed.
Yeah.
And, of course, I would really have loved to see them incorporate something for Bloodborne, because recently one of the modders in the community did find a way to patch Bloodborne to run at 60 frames on a PS4 Pro.
Yep.
But, of course, I believe the
Sony...
game speed itself is linked to its frame rate, so you had to do some...
That's
probably my belief of why they did not incorporate a patch for it.
Like Killer is Dead.
I know that's a interesting comparison.
It's a great game, though. I like Killer is Dead.
Yeah, Suda definitely makes some interesting shit. But, it's really interesting because, like, with the PS5 and, like, I'm noticing, like, games like Ghost of Tsushima, like, now run 60 frames per second. Yeah. And for people who have no idea, like, frame rate is extremely important. And I probably much more go with performance over fidelity a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because, especially for a really, like, if it's an RPG, I think I can, like, excuse it.
You can.
Because
you don't have that need for
exactly
split hair decisions and quick button
but
inputs.
If we're talking like platinum games, not that they have any games for the PS5 yet or Xbox, but or like Spider-Man Miles Morales, which looks really good. I haven't played the first Spider-Man on PS4 yet
either.
But didn't a remaster come out for the PS5?
A lot of some of the games that are kind of cross-gen, PS4, PS5, a lot of the titles essentially you have to kind of patch in like to optimize it for PS5, and that's going back on some of the issues with the new consoles is that some of them, PlayStation specifically, people are having trouble with just running the PS4 version of the game. It's not running the optimized
Pro version,
the better PS5 version.
Oh no!
Like
on top of that, we're having issues with downloading in the queue where games are not able to download. You essentially have to factory reset your console, so you better hope that you're saving to the cloud so you don't have to redo everything.
Imagine losing all your save data.
I mean, truthfully, I like the concept of next gen consoles, but I've always been somebody that I prefer waiting a little while before I get into it because I want to make sure these issues are addressed. I don't want to spend $500 for it's going to turn into a paperweight.
That's what I'm worried about. Like it kind of feels like the early adopters are just like guinea pigs. These consoles,
true.
like,
no, totally.
But the thing is, it's like so many people feel that, and I really should give a special fuck you to the scalpers who are like buying these and like the majority of people like for the love of fucking God, don't buy into this like I need a next gen console right fucking now. Like you don't. Like,
well, the local game shop, when we stopped at today, I was here there earlier in the week, and I discussed with the owner though about the whole idea. He's even brought up to one of the customers who had trouble paying for rent this month because they chose to go after a next-gen console as opposed to paying their bills. And he asked them, well, what on there is so necessary for you to play that you'd rather risk not paying your bills? The new Call of Duty. It's like, well, you know what I mean? It's like, it's
excuse me, debt
games
collectors,
that are
I hope you'll excuse me.
The games that are on the previous gen that really, to me, I could care less about Call of Duty. They're a dime a dozen game. Like I want the exclusives. I prefer the more niche
Demon Souls.
If there's something that's really on there as a system seller, but for people to buy into Call of Duty being a system seller,
and Activision's ripping people off anyway.
Yeah,
because they're trying to hide the fact that like the PS4 version is not cross-compatible.
Exactly.
And and what's funny is like you mentioned the store we were at. We also overheard someone saying, "Yeah, I got my PS4 online for $1,000 right now," and I'm just like, man. And it's like it's so fucked because there's so many like kids who I'm sure want that for Christmas and stuff, and it's like...
Yeah.
That's a big issue, is you're going around the holiday season, and people can take advantage of that now, because families want to give their kids what they want for Christmas.
Here's the thing, guys.
Yeah.
What if Santa doesn't deliver? Oh.
Well, here's the thing. I promise you guys, I don't know about near Christmas time, but I can promise you there will be... It's Sony. And Microsoft. They do a good job of keeping their stuff in stock.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried there.
I mean, it's not a matter of, like, if, it's a matter of when. They will get the production lines going. You have to, I'd say, get the consoles that have improved fixes, wait for some of the patches to come into play.
And then they'll be more readily available on top of that.
Totally. So you're getting a better
And you'll have
deal.
more games out by
Yeah,
then.
it's a better deal.
The
all
only
around.
thing right now selling me on a PS5, aside from Demon's Souls, is, like, just having that PS4 backwards compatibility. That's about it.
To get some of the improvements on some of the games, which I agree with. I mean, that would be nice, but at the same time, it'll happen. You'll get one at some point. Maybe there'll be a price cut. You'll get a revision. Whatever happens.
The only next gen console I got is that Game & Watch Mario.
Yeah, you got the Game &
That
Watch
is
Mario.
pretty good.
It is kind of like...
I got my iPad
I mean,
Pro.
I'll just very briefly... I'll just briefly talk about it. You know, like, it's like the fucking, like, what, 503 release of Mario Brothers 1, but it's like, it's such a cute
It's
little...
a really good device, though.
The build quality honestly did kind of shock me a bit. Like, the screen is really nice.
The speaker's nice, too.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, my fucking... massive fucking toe thumbs are make it a little difficult to hit the A and the B buttons, but it's really cool. I just wish it had more games on it other than Mario 1. I understand it's supposed to be a novelty item.
It's for collectors.
Yeah. I love how they list it as like 4 games, and you've got Mario 1, of course. You've got Mario Brothers 2, which is like, oh, goody. It's not the USA one. It's the really shitty original Mario 2.
the Kaizo Mario one.
It basically is like a ROM hack, isn't it?
It feels just like a ROM hack.
And then you've got the Game & Watch, but it has Mario's face on it, like
It's Ball, right?
I think it's Ball, yeah.
It is Ball,
And
yeah.
and then they list this as a game for some reason, the time, like because you
I
can,
love playing with time.
because you have this little time and you can like throw little Mario stars and Koopas on. It's like, wow, that's cute, and like you'll literally I can tell you guys right now, you'll look at it for like 2 minutes, you're like, cool, you'll put it down, you'll put it away, because that's all it is. It's a novelty item. It's cool it exists, but yeah. So speaking of Nintendo. I just don't understand, because, like, I keep giving them money, but then shit like this keeps happening, because the thing is, I really do love Nintendo, and it's like an abusive relationship.
The thing is, like, they're still run by such out-of-touch, like, old people who have no idea what's going on with the industry at all.
So let me get straight into the point here. Essentially, you guys don't mind, I'm just spitballing this, but basically, a Melee Netplay tournament, I think it's by the name of Big House, yeah, I have it right here. Yeah. Big House has been denied the ability to run an online event. With Slippy Online, which I assume is the program, I've worked hard to create as close to an authentic in-person experience as possible. The Melee community has been clear in expressing their gratitude. It has enabled competing in and watching top-level competition without requiring risky gatherings. I am disappointed that Nintendo is restricting our ability to power through these hard times. So, it looks like they basically sent the good old Nintendo cease and desist to them, which is just like...
It's like their business now is sending out cease and desists rather than, like, selling video games now.
Look, like, I get it. It's their intellectual... You know, people will say, well, it's their intellectual properties. They can do whatever they want. That's fine, and that's fair.
It's not fine, though.
But like, I mean, like, well, it's not fine. No, you're right. But, like, it's kind of like, it just seems like, well, that doesn't make it any less of a real douchebag move. And the fact that...
Yeah, the people defending it just need to stop. Like, do you want people to be hurt more just so your company sounds better?
And not only is this a 19-year-old game, but the fact, like, you really got to think about Nintendo's history and, like, how they got to where they were. And you got to consider the fact a lot of their backbone was, like, created by people of different, like people,
like these players.
Like, even, like, you know, you look at a company like Rareware who made the Donkey Kong Country games and supported Nintendo through so long, and even, let's go even further into time, you've got, like, Sega with Sonic Mania and how they've, like, basically hired fans to make a game for them, and I just don't understand why, like, Nintendo is just so fucking, like, especially, like, now with the pandemic going on, no one can go to locals anymore. And
so how are people going to play together in some sort of event?
I'll say
have people watch it.
Absolutely. Like, and I'll say right now, I'm not like a Melee competitive player. I did used to go to a lot of Ultimate locals, and I still enjoy Ultimate every now and then. But you know, there is a competitive Melee gathering, and that's really is, whether you like or hate Melee, you can't deny the fact that is a testament to how, like, you know, how strong the social, like, aspect of it is.
Yeah, these communities didn't start with Smash 64, people.
There are quite a few people who play Smash 64.
Yeah, I still like it, even though it's like disgusting now.
But I don't know, like shit like this just shows me how like incredibly out of touch Nintendo is.
No, they piss me off.
And it makes me so sad because then I end up buying the Game & Watch more. I'm like, man, I'm
and
a part
that's
of the
another reason it keeps happening. Like, I'm not ill-willing people who buy Nintendo products, but because they make things that people want to buy and people support them, they keep doing this. They're allowed to do things like this. You know what I mean? Like, they're allowed to just screw consumers over all the time.
That's the big one, the screwing of the consumer, because Nintendo, as you said earlier, the artificial scarcity, all of a sudden, oh boom, look, we're going to make a whole bunch more of them out of left field, and it's frustrating because it's just people want to purchase their products and partake in them, but then they make them so difficult because of what the community they've established. I mean, it reminds you a lot of like brands like Supreme and all this limited run stuff, because as people go and they scalp everything, they buy it all up because they know Nintendo isn't going to keep up with the demand. And then they command ridiculous aftermarket prices, which Nintendo isn't benefiting off of anyway. They could have just made more and profited, but they're very much, even in terms of ROM hacks and mods, some of the communities that want to sustain games like Ocarina of Time and Metroid and all of these, trying to make fan variations where they're not even making money on any of these fan titles anyway. They just love the game and they want to extend it in any way possible, but Nintendo is constantly lurking around and they don't want anything to do with it.
Making sure no one has fun.
Make sure no one has fun with their properties.
This reminds me so much of back when the fucking, anyone here remember Miiverse?
I do.
And I remember like anyone who mentioned Project M in the slightest, it's like they got fucking sniped on sight. They're like, no, you cannot talk about this mod. Like, and it's just like.
And here's the other thing: if they hate the mods and stuff, and they hate the fan-made games so much, why not do what Sega does and like hire them to make projects or something like that?
No,
it's because they're old and out of touch and don't know what the industry is like anymore.
It makes me so sad just to. I don't know.
In reality, too, you have to think Nintendo's been established for so long. They're just sitting on a mountain of finances. Nintendo's the type of company, even in instances where the Wii U completely flopped, they have so much money they're sitting on. It's not even going to leave a mark on them.
Do you remember?
They don't care. They just want to control their market. They don't want anybody to do anything with their properties because, as you said, they're old and out of touch. It's not an act against Nintendo. It's an act of love that they don't understand.
There's a lot of people who are like, well, it's emulation and that's illegal. I'm pretty sure emulation, like,
it's not illegal,
but like it's literally been brought into, like, this has been brought into court. Like, it's been brought into court. And they're like, because emulation goes under the assumption that you are playing it as a backup. Well, that's the reason why it's legal.
You're just using software to replicate that architecture. It's not like you're pirating the software necessarily.
Consider the fact that Nintendo in no form has re-released any of these GameCube games. They're not going to anytime soon.
There are tons of videos about how bad their preservation tactics are, how they don't preserve anything, and that the emulation community has done miles better than them. Like the Mario 64 PC port, I spoke about it on a few episodes ago, I believe. That is so much better than anything 3D All-Stars did.
Oh, All-Stars is a mess. I mean, even people that are fans of Mario 64, speedrunners, everything, that version alone, because it's that alternate Japanese version, they don't enjoy that aspect, and then you're having issues with controls and dead zoning and everything.
Apparently they just released an update so you can properly use the GameCube controller for Sunshine, which is like, wow, cool, thanks guys.
They shouldn't be congratulated for that, for putting in minimal effort.
We talked about 3D All-Stars so much the first episode, so there's so much to say there.
Nintendo's preservation tactics, as Matt said, is just, they're terrible, because they're just trying to, and then they try to just sell you the most bare bones ROM possible.
It feels like
they're making you subscribe to essentially a streaming service to enjoy their classics.
You can't even download them.
You can't download them. You don't own them.
Dude, like, you have a really obscure game like Vice Project Doom on there, but you can't even download the game.
No.
So
do you guys remember how fucking awesome the Wii Virtual Console was?
It was one of my favorite things about the Wii.
Like, you have fucking
TurboGrafx games.
Neo
You had
Geo.
MSX games.
I didn't even know the MSX.
In Japan,
That's crazy.
Commodore 64 games are on there.
Damn, that's
insane.
A lot of
everything. I mean, it's succeeded.
Neo Geo.
So yeah, that definitely moves me on. That's a good transition to the next topic, because this episode is based on game collecting and how much of a fucking well,
how awful people have made it.
Multifaceted hobby in terms of enjoyment.
It's a bit of a disaster.
I guess we should start because it's really interesting because you and I, Wyatt, we're really big collectors.
Yes.
We have been collecting for a very long time. We've been involved in the market. Whereas you, Matt, you've kind of slowly distanced from the hobby a bit.
Yeah, I got out of the war, but I still have flashbacks.
I still have PTSD flashbacks of that Conker's
That
Bad
time I
Fur.
missed out on King's Field.
It's like, I should have got that. So I definitely want to start with how we started, how we got involved. I got involved because midway through the... So I was just a casual gamer at that point. I played the Wii... It was the middle of the Wii, PS3, and 360 gen. We got a new Nintendo Wii. We played Wii Sports. We got fucking bored of it like everyone did the first 5 minutes. Yeah, and we were really trying to enjoy it as much as we could. Played Mario Galaxy. Played a few GameCube games that we missed out on because we didn't have
I
a
used the
GameCube.
Wii as a GameCube a lot more than a
Me
Wii.
too, honestly. In retrospect, I did because I feel like a lot of GameCube games have just aged immensely better.
My dad was the only one who used Wii Sports for any amount of time.
Come on, son, we're playing tennis.
Oh, he loved the Punch-Out one, the boxing one.
Oh, I think everyone Wii Sports is basically just Wii boxing.
Yeah, right.
Like,
He'd get sweaty. He'd make a fucking ocean in the basement.
but yeah. So midway through the Wii generation, this is like midway through the Wii where Nintendo started like releasing less gimmicky games and more so, hey, here's a new Super Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong Country Returns, like throwback things, just very simple things. And we got a PS3 and we were playing that a bit. And I don't know, I just got so fed up with it. And around the time, I just got a real craving to... I started downloading Wii Virtual Console. Or, not downloading games from Wii Virtual Console.
Yeah.
I got Zelda Ocarina of Time, and it fucking blew me away because I never got to experience this game. I never grew up with an N64. So having that option to play an older game on it was great. And around this time, I started watching a lot of Angry Video Game Nerd, Brental Foss, all these gaming YouTubers. And...
You saw how good Mylon's Secret Castle was.
Yeah. I just saw all these, like, they always have this big bookshelf of games behind them, and I was kind of like, oh, I want that. And just all these games I skipped out on because as a kid, I wasn't very daring with my game selections. I wouldn't play Street Fighter or Final Fantasy or Earthbound. I'd play shit like fucking, I don't know, Finding Nemo for the PS2 or some shit.
Hey, don't shit talk that game.
Who knows, there might be a very dedicated Finding Nemo
You're talking
fanbase.
to him.
Yeah, so I remember going to a GameStop back when they stopped selling PS1 games, and I don't know why, I just got a craving to play Spyro 2 again, because that was a game we grew up on. And I talked with him, and he was like, we don't carry PS1 games, however, there's a secondhand shop, and I didn't know, like, retro game stores existed. Yeah, we went there, and it was really awesome, because I saw these Super Nintendo cartridges, and for those who don't know, I should briefly mention, I did grow up a little bit with Sega Genesis. It was the first console I ever had, with a copy of Sonic 1, and we also had a little bit of the Super Nintendo thanks to my stepsister. And so I recognized all these cartridges, and I thought it looked really cool. And I started, my first, so I did mention this briefly in the last episode, but I'll go full on into it. I remember I wanted to start collecting. I decided I want to start having all these games, and my dad started off, he went to the store, and he got me a clone console. The FC3 Plus, which you guys might have heard.
I love garbage.
I mentioned it in the last episode, but I'm just going to mention it again here. It plays NES, Super Nintendo, and Genesis. And this was... I already had a real Sega Genesis, so this was mainly just for NES and Super Nintendo. The 3 first Super Nintendo games I got was Mario World, Link to the Past, and Mario All-Stars. In the box, actually. So, pretty good games. And then when we launched up... I got Zelda 1 for the NES. The NES emulation, of all things, was the one that was the most fucked up. The colors were all washed out. It was terrible, and I just got so frustrated because I knew it didn't look right. But I also didn't want to resort to emulation. I wanted to play these in an authentic way. Eventually, they stopped selling the FC3 Plus because even they realized it was a piece of shit, and they just started telling customers who are about to buy it, hey, if you're going to buy that, we're not sure if that game will work with it. They actually had to give a disclaimer.
Isn't that so sad?
Yeah.
Like, imagine being a consumer and being like, oh, so I could buy this system and shit might not work for it. Yay.
Absolutely.
That, like, defeats the purpose of a console, you know?
No, definitely. And I don't know if they were aware of these hardware, the creators were, if they just didn't test the right games, but,
Oh, they didn't give a shit.
Especially since a lot of SNES games have special chips in them that like special chips that do like 3D looking
Bye
effects.
Star Fox.
Yeah, Mode 7. Oh yeah, I don't think
Street Fighter Alpha 2 will literally burst the thing on fire.
I mean, playing Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the SNES in general feels like your fucking house is gonna burn on fire because it's just too intense. But yeah, I started doing that and collecting. I would say I was in middle school at this time, late middle school, and collecting around that time was fantastic.
Super cheap.
It was super cheap. You could go into the store. I got Zelda 1 for like $10. It was awesome. And we're kind of at now, which is a whole nother point, but that's kind of where I got into collecting. So, do you want to go next, Wyatt?
Sure. I'll go next. So I'd always been into retro game collecting. It intensified over the years, but I would say that when I was around 5 years old, I really grew up a generation behind. I grew up on a dairy farm, so I didn't necessarily have a lot of the modern amenities that a lot of families had, so I didn't really have cable television or anything like that. I didn't really have the newest video game consoles, so when I was around like 5 years old or so, I remember my parents and I went to a yard sale. I ended up getting a Sega Genesis, the Model 1, the one with the high definition graphics model.
That's like my favorite model.
And I ended up getting a Super Nintendo, and both of them came with like easily over 30 games.
Nice.
So that's how I started my journey. Was when being 5 years old, growing up with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and loving them, playing games like at the time, you could go to flea markets. I go with my family, which we enjoy very much. And I'd find things like Link to the Past for a couple dollars, and Metroid and all this stuff. Just pick it up for very cheap.
For 25 cents.
And my parents were fine with it because you'd ask them, "Hey, like, Mom, can I get this?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was only like $1 or $2, or even sometimes less." I remember when I would go to the Salvation Army as a kid, and I'd be finding NES games and everything else for quarters. Like, I mean, you don't even see it anymore, but I mean, I'm talking prices at like 30 cents for a game. And
oh my goodness.
But I remember eventually getting into an NES, and I was always envious because my uncle had one, but he was reluctant to ever get rid of it. The reason I knew about all these consoles was the comic books that I'd pick up as a kid from flea markets and thrift stores all had advertisements for all these systems in their games. So that was really, I was so allured by it. I love that shit. I was enamored by it, and I didn't want really much to do with any of the modern systems. I eventually got a PlayStation 1 and the N64 to a video store near where I lived, and it was called Video Studio 22, and they used to have a ton of games you could rent. And so I used to play PS1 games like crazy. One I really loved was Spider-Man, the Neversoft Spider-Man game. And
people really like that one.
But as it went by, I was just always going to flea markets with my family on the weekends, and thrift stores with my mom, and I just kind of kept picking up games here and there when they were really cheap and available, and people didn't really care very much. And eventually I got, I had quite a substantial collection by the time I was in middle school and high school. But I'd say after my senior year in 2014, that's when I really got super dedicated to it.
Yeah.
I already had a substantial amount of games, but my first system I focused on was the GameCube, which I'm thankful
Back then when GameCube games were actually fucking cheap.
I was able to get games like Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes for like $15.
Oh, you'd be lucky to find
now
that
it's
shit for...
Now it's like I just picked up a huge collection of games, and I just kept going from there, and I do enjoy it. But man, my start was really just growing up with the earlier systems and adding on to those collections.
Not to interrupt, but back then, a lot of people, having all this stuff around was just like a nuisance.
Totally.
There was this guy at my middle school. His name's Quentin. Fucking,
oh boy, I love these stories.
I love Quentin. He was so fucking awesome. He this is one of the greatest fucking stories for me. This was like the happiest day of my life. He's like, "Oh, you collect old games?" He was like, "I got like a shit ton of them. You want them?" Like, yeah. And he came in to our because Matt, we went to the same school.
Yeah.
He came into our shop with like a fucking like Santa Claus. He had like a Santa sack, literally a fucking sack full of SNES and
sack?
full of SNES and N64 games. We're talking Super Bomberman 2, Rocket Knight,
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
just good shit. And then I remember, because I told him I was specifically looking for this one. I texted him. I'm like, I doubt you have this, because I had Mega Man X1 and X2, and you guys know I love Mega Man X. And I was like, Mega Man X3, even back then it was pretty expensive. And I was just like, do you have Mega Man X3? You probably don't have it. And he's like, oh, let me check. And he texts me with an image. He's like, now the label was a little ripped, but I didn't really care. He's like, oh yeah, I found it. I was like, I remember just texting like an emoji of like literally like the oh my god, and he kind of said something like, fucking calm down, man, and he came to the school and like he's like, here you go. I was like,
this is my favorite like.
I remember going on the bus and I was talking to my ex, like I was like, I can't fucking believe I got it, and she's like, I don't fucking care. Who the fuck cares? Like I was like,
yeah, Mega Man's for babies.
I was just like, I was so happy, and yeah, like, but to transition to what you were saying, Wyatt, moments like that are what made retro collecting so fucking fun back then.
It was fun because at the time it wasn't as coveted and it wasn't as desirable. So you had, every time you went somewhere, there was that chance you were gonna find something of value. Nowadays, you are very, very lucky and fortunate if you're to find anything other than sports games or scratched up filler titles.
Fucking people.
Adventures of Dr.
I
Franken.
love how people will purposely buy like shitty sports games just as like a case replacement.
Oh, let's get on to this too, because one thing that always just kind of, I never understand it, is the people that buy everything, even if it's
even the
sport,
shitty games.
they just do it because
like,
they don't have it.
I don't know whether to sympathize for these people or just not give a fuck. But like, there's these people who just get into collecting, and you on eBay you'll see a lot of these like 100 PS2 game lots. Like, whoa, 100 PS2 games, but you got shit in there like fucking, I don't know, 101 Dalmatians or some shit. I don't know if
There's
was
a lot of.
Hey, don't shit talk that one.
You get a lot of coasters, you know what I mean? A lot of different
For real,
great
right?
coasters.
my Bubsy 3D
Tekken
coaster.
1.
Oh come on, Tekken 1. They gotta give it a big credit.
Bloody Roar is way better.
But yeah, like no, like you see a lot of people with those lots, and they're just like looking to get rid of it because it's like they don't want it, and they probably are just like, well, poor fucking sucker who bought that. So yeah,
That's funny. I don't really have any collection stories like you guys where it was like, oh, you just get something from like I would find stuff at the flea market, sure, but it usually was games I already had.
Do you remember you found that Hudson like CD? Like
I should talk about that. Yeah. So before that, basically I grew up kind of like Wyatt. I just had a SNES and an N64 back like before like the GameCube era, and, like during the GameCube era, and I just played games like that. I was into Castlevania. I was into like Link to the Past and Mario World and shit. And like just as time went on, I wanted more games that I liked, and I just liked the retro aesthetic. I liked the retro game design more, so I just like levitated more towards those games than the bigger, complex like GameCube era games. Because at that time, I wasn't like, oh, these games are like easy to pick up and play, even though now they are compared to like Assassin's Creed.
Oh my god, big time, yeah.
Just as time went on, then my cousins showed me what emulation was, and then I discovered so many of my favorite fucking games through emulation. In like fuck Nintendo, but for taking down so many sites, but
Emu Paradise, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. That's how we got
that was a good one.
ROMs.
Yeah,
And Saturn ROMs.
yeah. Like Sigma X here, I wanted real hardware too at points, especially for the NES, because the only hardware I had was a fucking Super Joy 3 Family clone.
Yeah.
That's like all I had.
Did we just both start with fucking shitty clone consoles?
We did. Mine was better though.
Yours was better.
No, it was awful.
Was it? It couldn't have been worse than the SCP.
So it was an N64 controller plug and play with a bunch of Famicom.
I
had one of those.
I saw that shit at the mall a few times.
And they would just break down from normal use.
And you could actually plug in a cartridge.
In the bottom of the controller. Yeah, like I always saw the port on the back, but I never knew what it was for.
So you
I didn't
just
know what
lodge a
Famicom
giant
was.
fucking NES cartridge in the back?
No, a Famicom cart. Not even NES.
Oh, okay. That's
so,
still like
you know
pretty...
where the memory card slot is?
So it's like a Famicom cart instead.
Yeah.
That's so
and
gross.
I always saw that as a kid, but I never knew what games went in there because I didn't know what a Famicom was. I didn't know it was just the NES or anything.
No, definitely.
I grew up, like, before ever collecting, really, I was into emulation. Like, that's how I played, like, all my games back then.
Oh, yeah. No.
I just had my computer with Max Payne on it and all my emulated games, and I was happy.
Yeah.
And then as time went on and I had money, I started buying games. Like, I bought myself an NES, I bought some Mega Mans, I bought some Vanias, I bought some Vice Project Doom and Ninja Gaidens. And I was starting to get into it around the time it became shitty.
Yeah. Oh, like back when the prices were really ramping up.
When they were starting to ramp up.
Yeah.
So, at that point, I was like, eh. And just as time went on, I was like, I don't use this stuff as much anymore. And I just kind of, like, sold all of my shit except for... like my childhood shit. I still have my SNES, I still have my N64, a few GBA things. I still have my PS2 and PS1 shit, but like...
Yeah. So you were kind of born and raised on emulation.
Mostly, yeah.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, because I didn't actually go into this, but with the topic of emulation,
the Hudson CD.
Oh, yeah, you should bring that up first. Yeah, I forgot.
Bumfuck Nowhere Flea Market.
It was like a soundtrack.
When I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is this doing here?
So you guys should know, like, this is like, it's not a game, it's like a soundtrack CD for a bunch of Hudson Soft's like TurboGrafx games.
Yeah, like
but it's like worth like $300 now or something crazy
Yeah.
like that. And you got it for like $50 or something?
No, 10.
Oh my god.
He just thought it was a normal CD. He didn't know. But here's the thing, he had a couple copies of Call of Duty Ghosts for Xbox 360.
And next to a Hudson Soft
And that was
CD.
underneath. This Hudson Soft soundtrack CD with like music from a bunch of Hudson games like Bonk and what's the one based on anime that starts with an L, like Langrisser? Not Langrisser,
what about
Lotus War. There was a Lotus War.
Was there Keith Courage?
Keith Courage was not on there, thank God. But I found that, I was like, what the fuck? It was shrink wrapped. I was like, what the fuck is this doing here? Why is it shrink wrapped? Why is it like in this white trashes like pile of stuff? Like, I wanted to know the story of that CD from Japan.
It's really amazing because it's like sometimes you see these people, like, not to judge people, because I know they say you can't judge a book by cover.
He wasn't a collector. He wasn't into games or anything.
It's just like that's
he
something,
wouldn't have known what this was. It just happened to end up there.
That's something an ordinary person would not have. Like,
No,
so
exactly.
It's
I was
really
like, how the fuck did this get here? It's the most random shit ever.
Like, I don't think you're gonna see like a random like 80-year-old man who just happens to have Panzer Dragoon Saga laying in his basement.
No. There was this hippie woman who sold me Silent Scope for PS2.
So yeah, that's kind of how we started getting into collecting. And I was gonna tell my emulation thing quick. So it's kind of interesting because I was sort of semi born and raised on emulation. Like for me, I never grew up with an N64. We were a PlayStation family. My family, I don't know if the N64 was more expensive or not, or if
I think it was pricier,
or if it was just more inconvenient. I don't know.
I know it was $200 at launch.
Right. So there was this whole library of games that I never got to experience, and we see a lot of these big gaming YouTube personalities like kind of shit on emulation, like people who like to emulate. But I'll tell you right now, even though I prefer to collect authentic hardware, I wouldn't be into it now if it weren't for emulation. Like, I remember Project 64 back in the early stages. I'll never forget Zach. He brought over his fucking USB. Like, I didn't know about emulation. Yeah. And he just plugged it in my computer. He installed Project 64, and he showed me this entire library of games. Like that I just never got to experience. Super Smash Brothers, Zelda Ocarina of Time, Paper Mario. That Project 64 emulator took up the next year of my life. I was just playing nothing but N64 emulation. So when I see all these people like shit on emulation, I'm just like...
They want their physical collection to seem like... It's kind of like a dick measuring contest. They don't want to have any sort of... They just don't want anything to challenge them. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. And that, like, to bring up to the next point is, like, with collecting, there's all these difficulties that come with collecting, with, like, condition and all these things we need to consider.
Especially controllers and CD drives.
Because, Wyatt, you're looking at all my PS1 games, or you're looking at the back of the discs, and you're like... There's so many, like... So I don't understand, why do these, like, game stores, like, fucking do these refurbishing things when the discs are perfectly working?
That's the one question I've always had, is why do they take perfectly good discs and put them, run them through the buffer? But they do. I don't know if it's some sort of thing that they feel like ensures that the game is going to work, but, I mean, anytime I go to a game store, even sometimes, if they haven't resurfaced them yet, and they'll go... I see them. They'll open my game case. They'll start to pick up my CD, and they'll like, oh, well, put it through the buffer for you. This is a little scratch. I'm like, no. I would rather have my game have a few scratches on it than dare have those swirl marks to get on the bottom.
And the thing is, majority of the time, it doesn't affect the game, but I don't think it really fixes the game.
No, all it does is you're just shaving off a layer of the plastic from the. And the thing is, my big concern is, I know some discs are more resilient than others. But I've had idiots out there that think it's okay to put GameCube games through disc resurfacers multiple times.
My God.
And guess what? You just got rid of all your data because those discs are so fragile and delicate.
Oh, yeah.
You're better off if it's scratched and it works, you're better off just keeping it as it is for GameCube.
Right.
PS1, you resurface them. They get these disgusting swirl marks, and I will go on a crusade against all those.
And
eBay
I've got
people
quite a few
who don't take accurate photos or let you know, because I am not a fan of that look. Yeah. You can even see it on PS2 games if they do it, but not as much. DVDs are a lot more resilient with the lacquer layer, but CDs and even GameCube games, Saturn games, all that stuff, Just, dude, keep them away from the
especially with how
N64 games.
Yeah, especially N64 games, man.
with how expensive like some of those games are getting too. Like nothing makes me cringe more than like, let's put this $200 game through the fucking buffer.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
Like, why on earth would you do that?
Yep. Back when I had Castlevania Chronicles, that was buffed.
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's like an $80 game loose.
Yeah.
You got it buffed or like?
Someone I bought it from had it buffed.
And
like you said, Wyatt, the fucking pictures weren't taken well.
No, they're not taking
couldn't
well.
tell.
And then you get it and you're like, what the hell, dude? That happened with me multiple times with people on eBay.
Yeah.
And you'll ask them too, like, hey, it's just been resurfaced, and they don't even. Sometimes maybe they don't know. Maybe they
don't know whatever. Like, they're like, I don't know. I'm just selling this game. That looks
looks mint.
Exactly
like, what the
right.
fuck is this?
And like that kind of like in regards to like condition is like, now usually this isn't the case, but sometimes, I don't know about you guys, sometimes I'll have like when I buy like a console or something, it has like, I usually don't care too much about cosmetic blemishes, but sometimes it really irritates me to the point where I'll try to sell it and just replace it.
Yeah, because you can't stop looking at it and thinking about it.
Yeah, like my PSP, it's in like perfect condition, but it has this little chip on the edge, just little tiny chip. And
that would piss me off too.
It bothers me so much because every time I just like look at it, I'm like, oh. And PSPs aren't exactly like super easy to open up, and like because they get shit under it. The smallest like just insignificant thing can get in the screen while you're like, because you have to take the screen off in order to replace the L and R buttons. So shit like that, like I don't know if you have any instances of that, Wyatt. Like
in terms of condition, I'm usually pretty lax when it comes to it if I know what I'm getting. Like if for example someone sells me like for example from the store that I frequent, I was able to get a very very cheap Sega Saturn because the thing was having some issues with its laser. I was able to replace the laser in it.
Yeah.
And of course, it was a little worn, but I got it for next to nothing. I don't care. I didn't pay much for it, but it's different when I feel like I'm paying full retail for something that is not in the condition I want. But I mean, really, if I know what I'm getting into, I'm okay with it.
That's
I can live with it. But if like it's a surprise to me, I'll be pissed off about it.
Oh yeah,
it'll irritate me. Or that's really my big concern. But condition is huge. I mean, some games you don't care about, and the cheap stuff, like the readily available titles, if they have a few little nicks and scuffs, whatever. But when it comes to when you start getting into the high end, you want it to be clean.
Yeah, you have to have
when you're paying like $200 for a game, that game better be like
that better be immaculate.
Oh no, totally.
So and that's another complaint I have even with the resale market is people that don't mark their product accurately based on condition. They'll and that's the same thing even on eBay. If someone's not posting multiple photos of something that is selling for over $200 like a game, I'm not going to go after that listing because I don't know what this looks like. Are you ashamed to show me what it looks like?
I'm embarrassed. Well, there's a difference between cosmetic blemishes and actual hardware. Like, like especially because I brought up the PSP. For some reason, there's certain consoles that so many people owned, like PS2, Wii, PSP. These are really high selling consoles / handheld, whatever. And because of that, like, it's so easy to find them always in shit condition.
Yes.
Because like it looks like fucking everyone had a Nintendo Wii. Like people are using them as fucking coasters.
I'm telling you, the Nintendo Wii, I have worked on multiple of them when I'm even at that local game shop.
Yeah.
I work there sometimes. Dude, the Nintendo Wii is easily the grossest system I've come across.
It's like I'm wondering.
They all look like they came out of smokers.
Oh yeah, they're awful. The vents are plugged up. There's like dried, caked on grime on all the buttons.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone for some reason had a fucking Wii, even if they weren't into games. So it's so easy to find them. Just like people have them under their fucking couch or just fucking laying in their basement. Like
people who like you just said, like people you would never expect to have a console ever would have them.
Yeah. Because that's when Nintendo entered the whole, we're going for the casual crowd thing.
Everyone wants this.
I want to talk about the retro community as a whole. Woo-hoo! So, gaming YouTube channels, so the good...
This episode's a hidden gem.
In other words, I want to talk about the good, because there's some good.
There's some good.
And the bad.
Largely bad.
I love the good, though. The good that's there, I love.
So the thing is... Like any expensive hobby, you got people who fucking collect cars, for fuck's sakes. Yeah. Like people who literally collect cars. And obviously, when you spend a lot of money on something, you want people to know what you have is very worth it. Because that's when you spend that much money and when you pour that much blood and sweat into a hobby, that's your livelihood there now.
Right.
That's who you are. And what I've noticed is a lot of these. So as a collector, I watch a lot of these collector gaming channels, and over the years I've come across many good ones. Ones that have if it weren't for YouTube, I would not have discovered many of these games.
Same.
Exactly.
Metal Jesus wouldn't have either.
So like in regards to like. I so loosely want to say hidden gems because it's so hard not to associate it with Metal Jesus, but
Right.
I have actually discovered games I fucking never would have
No, me too.
found
like
out.
Musha, like the entire Aleste series.
Yeah, totally.
Games like that.
Rocket
games like
Knight,
Clash of Demon Head.
Parasite Eve, the great games. Like Parasite Eve's not exactly a fucking hidden gem, but you know what I mean. I never would have figured these games out if it weren't for YouTube, but it seems like with the rise of these YouTubers. And we can largely say YouTube definitely had a role in the spike in game prices.
100%.
Definitely.
Totally.
It has played a large part because, much like I got into retro collecting largely through YouTube and me wanting to do it, many other people hopped. Now, thankfully, I kind of hopped on that train before it got a little wild.
Yeah.
But other YouTubers, they talk about how they have these really expensive, like, frame meisters and how to get the best image out of your... It's, like, straight up, like, kind of OCD territory at times.
But to an extent where they say, like, oh, mine's so good.
Well, like...
oh, you're not playing at that quality, what the fuck?
Yeah, it gets excessive. It goes from the point that the average person that wants to get into retro gaming, you do not need a frame meister, you do not need all these upscalers, you don't need all these...
Dude,
and it's like... overwhelm them.
You overwhelm them, so, honestly.
And I see these PVMs with, like, RGB mods and shit. And for those who don't know, RGB is, like... don't expect me to say the technical terms, but it's essentially the best possible output you can get for retro games. Possible.
Yes, the goal.
In an authentic, non-emulated way. And I've seen RGB, and it does look fucking incredible. That being said, do you also want to drop $500, around $400 to $500, on PVM, mod your console, because most consoles don't have RGB.
Oh, yeah.
And that's my problem is... People can't be...
It turns into a situation where that's really a luxury way to experience everything, but honestly, I think the people that care most about the retro game community are those who aren't going to go down that rabbit hole. A lot of them are just going to want to experience it. Maybe they do have a PVM or something, but they're not going to go through all that effort of RGB modding or HDMI modding consoles. Like, get a CRT, use S-Video, or even... I know composite is not great. But the point is, I think most people that really are passionate about retro games just want to play it, and they'll play it any way that they can.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, like, it's a luxury, it's better and everything like that, but when you act like it's the definitive, the best way, when people have different, like, people will be more comfortable with different options. People aren't going to be like, not everyone's going to be like, I need this setup.
And the thing is, like what makes me so upset is that I feel like this is, like, people talk about hobbies and gatekeeping. And, like,
yes.
And I feel like the retro gaming community is probably one of the highest gatekeeping, like, just absolute fucking snobs who just eat
Saturn forums.
You want to tell that story about the Saturn forums?
So, about like 3 years ago, I got my first Saturn at Comic-Con, and I was getting games for it. I signed up on the forums.
Even back then, it was not cheap.
No, it wasn't cheap. I got the system, I think, for a pretty good price back then. I got it for like $55, I think.
Yeah.
So I was like happy with that, and then I started importing games. I got Symphony of the Night because obviously I'm a fucking I jerk off Castlevania all the time. I got imported Sonic Jam, and Panzer Dragoon. I got games like that.
Yeah.
People were fucking shitting on me for buying these games at the prices I did, even though they weren't that bad. I got Castlevania for $80.
Yeah. Which
at the time, 80 was like the average price anyway.
It went up quite a bit now, though.
Oh yeah, it's like around 200 now.
Jesus.
Sonic Jam. Now, I paid $60 for it. And here's the thing. I know that game is dirt cheap, especially the import copy is dirt cheap. But this was a sealed copy. It was brand new, never touched. So, I paid $60 for it because I was like, cool, this is a brand new game that I'm opening up and playing. And I was like, hey guys, look, I got this, blah, blah, blah. Just being like, hey, look what... It's like, it's fun. Like, that's what the forums are for. Like, sharing the games we got. And like
hey, look at this game that I'm passionate about, that I'm really happy with.
Yeah,
I feel like it's
a game I wanted for so long. Because, like, on the Mega Collection, I saw the commercial they put in for Sonic Jam in the video section. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell's Sonic Jam?
It's a very, like, interesting Sonic collect. It's, like, one of the first ones.
In the 3D world and everything. And I was just telling people, like, hey, I'm pretty stoked. I got this, and I think I got it for a good price, sealed. And everyone was like, you fucking paid $60. It's because of people like you that we have to pay so much fucking money for shit. Like, there were, like, everyone was fucking jumping on me, calling me a fucking idiot, and dumbass. And
I just don't understand, like, and it's just like, you know, you guys want more people to know about these. Not that Sonic.
That's what I said in there. I actually put at the bottom of the fucking thread. I was like, guys, do you want less people to join and talk to?
Because it's about sharing your passion, about sharing. Like, look at these games that not many people talk about.
I was like, this is a sealed game. I would have paid like $20 if it was juice.
So. Yeah, no, I wanted to address gaming YouTube channels, and there's all these different...
like ours.
There's all these different... Because collecting has become this big thing now, and we got these really prominent YouTubers. I'll start with Metal Jesus Rocks.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't have anything against him. Like, I think he's fine.
He's a nice person.
He is... He seems like he honestly has the best intent.
He has no ill will.
One thing I've noticed has become very prominent with a lot of these big YouTubers is e-begging.
Mm-hmm.
And... they seem to think they're way bigger than they actually are.
Here.
So people what I don't understand is so basically Metal Jesus is a YouTube collector. He collects all these older games and people
Hey bro, he worked at Sierra.
He
took the trash out at Sierra.
So he does these hidden gem videos, and I remember me and my friend Chloe were watching his GameCube hidden gems video. And he literally listed Star Fox.
Hey guys, Mario Sunshine here, hidden gem.
He talks about these games, and it seems like he
doesn't know anything beyond the 2600.
So I'm watching this top 10 RPGs. Like, oh yeah, Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. That's the one.
Let's be honest. He doesn't play the games.
I don't think he does.
And I want to go to a story specifically about him. Remember the PC games? 600 of them for $60.
What was it?
He made a video where
he traveled across the fucking ocean to get a 2000 big box PC games. I remember
for
that.
$60. He is never gonna fucking play those. Like, how many other people who collect for PC? I still buy big box PC games sometimes.
So
are you saying I wouldn't let someone who actually plays this fucking shit and would love having it pay $60 for all that instead of you hoarding it because you want to say you have it?
I was just going to say, when does the line get drawn between collecting and hoarding? Because
honestly,
I think a lot of us with our big collections are realistically I don't know if I'm going to be able to play all of these at some point, but I collect the games that in the back of my head I know I'm going to at least pick this up and play it.
Yeah.
You go for the things that you're interested and care about, and that's what matters. I mean, I look at, I've recently been cataloging my collection using the Game Eye app, and I've noticed it, and looking at it, you know what? A lot of the titles on there, I'm happy I own. I love those games. I like them. I'm not over here hoarding shit, or I'm not just trying to accrue things because they're worth money.
And, you hear him talk about these games, and I played Persona 2 Eternal Punishment
he
around
talks
last
about
year.
generally common games. Like you said, Star Fox, Assault.
Well, he was talking about Persona 2 Eternal Punishment.
Which isn't common, but it's known,
Well, it's certainly not a common Persona game. And he's talking about it in his top 10 PS1 RPGs, I think it was. And he was like... Yeah, pretty weird game. Yeah, the characters shoot themselves in the head to summon their personas. I'm like, okay, first of all, he's talking about Persona 3.
Oh, I do remember that. I remember that video.
Second of all, he's talking about the game at a very surface level. He definitely hasn't touched it. I've played Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. It is... Or maybe he has touched it, but I don't think he's really explored it.
He's an Atari gamer. He's not, anything beyond
Oh my god, people who collect Atari.
No, he's one of those, but he just happens to have other modern games, too.
The funny thing about people who collect Atari, which I'm not going to judge you if you do like to collect for Atari, if you grew up with it, but the thing is, games didn't start becoming, established and good till after Atari.
Yeah, and I'm not judging either. I'm just saying, he is just an Atari-type guy.
Yeah.
And he only knows about that era, but he goes beyond that and takes things from people that actually want, later shit.
Hidden Gem, Kim Possible on the PS2.
I got Modern Warfare 2 for Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Hidden Gem.
I fucking had that Kim Possible game. It's not good.
It looks awful.
Unfortunately, the thing with Metal Jesus is he doesn't necessarily. I know he probably does mean well in some instances, but of course, let's not forget about that RV incident.
The road trip.
The road trip incident. Let's not forget about that.
So this shit made me so angry. Is he basically asked his? So you guys remember what I was saying earlier about a lot of these YouTubers think they're way bigger than they actually are, and he basically had a Kickstarter, and he's like, I would like you guys... So what was it again? Give me money so I can travel across the country and buy retro games? Is that what it was?
Something like that. Maybe a part of it was a meet and greet with fans.
Pay me money to buy games that you guys could buy.
It's like a tour. He wanted to go on tour to go and hoard shit that other people would probably deserve more than him.
$1 million? Or how much? It wasn't
It
a
wasn't
million.
but it was
A million.
And here's the
quite a lot
other
of
thing.
money.
100,000.
And here's the other thing. You have to have balls. Well, okay, he doesn't have balls, but like,
He's got metal
you
balls.
have to understand.
It's like from Congo.
That's not the kind of thing you ask $1 million on Kickstarter for. You can cancel a Kickstarter project after getting funded. Like, who's gonna donate? What collective group is gonna donate $1 million to someone who could potentially like cancel this idea and just take the money and run?
And to give him...
It's not like a game where they have a project they're showing and just need money to get it out the door quicker.
Exactly.
Right. And I will give him a little bit of credit, though. He did make a video, like, actually apologizing for him, being like, okay, I fucked up. So, it's not like we're shitting on him. I don't, like I said, I don't think he's a bad person, but...
I don't think he's a bad person, too, but he pisses me off.
He has, like, actually introduced me to some shit that I never thought I'd see, so... But if we're gonna talk people who I personally like,
we're gonna talk about somebody in the MJR crew, one of the flagship members.
So picture this guy, all right? He says he's gonna start a video game museum, and now as someone who is very interested in the preservation of older games,
That's an awesome idea.
Of course, like, yeah,
It's legitimately an awesome idea, especially for people who don't have the finances to get these systems and games. It's cool to be able to go see them in person.
I would love to go to a video game museum in person, you know,
it's awesome.
Post-pandemic, if that ever happens. But anyways...
Museum canceled, pandemic.
Yeah, museums canceled. Thanks for all the games.
I'm going to keep all these games.
You can have the virtual museum. No, but, like, so this guy on YouTube, now, whenever he talks about himself, he's like, I'm the immortal John Hancock. And you listen to his videos,
so full of himself.
And he talks as, like, okay, when I first discovered his channel, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? and he talks as if, like, he's been established. He's been in here. Everyone who I've talked to about him is like, yeah, I just found him on YouTube one time randomly. I think he got big through Metal Jesus' channel. And he, you know, much like Metal Jesus, the same thing where he talks about games, doesn't really seem like he knows what he's talking about. So anyways, he kind of started like I don't think a Kickstarter. I think it's more so like, hey,
a program.
Send me your video games and I'm going to put it in my museum. This was 4 years ago.
Mm.
People are sending him, we're talking high-priced games. Right?
Yes.
Panzer Dragoon Sagas, Magic Knight Raiders.
So whereas Metal Jesus is just an innocent Atari 2600 gamer, John Hancock is a scam artist.
Dude,
Yes.
And the thing is, if there is...
he means harm.
If there is anyone...
John Penis.
Exactly.
If there is anyone who's like, oh, well, you don't know, like... The thing is, I would certainly... People are like, he did make a video, like, I'm going to address everyone wrong. And here's the thing. If people are sending him $1,000 games for free, I would certainly hope we're wrong. Because I don't want to be right about that. I don't want to be, like... Because he's had these false promises of we're starting a museum. And
let's not even get started on some of the other issues here with him flagging people's videos in the past for things he didn't agree with.
Yeah.
And him essentially just never taking true accountability. You know what the most frustrating aspect of John Hancock is to me? That man's a teacher. That man is an educator.
I didn't even know that.
And he is one of the most, to me, pathetic educators I've seen. Somebody, myself, was in the teaching profession. If I were a child, whichever child has to have John Hancock, Mr. Hancock, as their teacher, I am sorry, because I'm surprised Mr. Hancock's not out here going, oh, does your mommy and daddy have some video games at home they can just
I was
give
just going to say the same thing.
He probably does. He probably goes and asks his students to go give him games. You know, he's obviously, his actions online prove to me that he's not a good role model for anybody.
He takes DSs away from his students.
He takes DSs away.
As like punishment, and then
he counterfeits it. Not counterfeits, but he like contraband. He takes them, puts them in his desk so he can bring him home,
and they never see him again.
Put him in his whatever 50th tote of DSs that he has in his basement.
And so he's got this museum, and people are sending him these rare fucking games. It's been 4 years. We have nothing.
No.
We have, like, he once organized his
Except
NES
for his
games.
shit-eating face.
Yeah, he organized his NES games once. He's like, look, he brought them out. He brought them out for display once. And here's the thing, you guys. I guarantee you, 98% guarantee you, he's gonna get all these games, and I guarantee you he's either going to run off YouTube or just be like, here's my museum on YouTube, and like this virtual thing, because
they're his. And
here's the thing. Mm-hmm. You want to know why that makes me so mad is that there are actual video game museums. My dad went to one in New York. they had like the development of 3D. They showed VibRibbon for the PS1. It was cool fucking stuff. And I just don't believe this shit. It's like, if you want to donate your games to a game museum, go to an actual fucking video
And here's the thing. When it comes to opening a museum, you don't just take donations to show what you have.
Yeah.
You have to, like, have your business plan laid out. You have to... And these people sending you games are basically your fucking investors. You have to give them updates. You owe it to them to show them that you're working on this.
I don't know what his process is, but I'm sure if somebody were to hand him multiple copies of the same title, if it commands value, I doubt he's going to give it back to them or send it back. Oh, I already have this.
I'll sell this to fund the museum.
This will fund my museum. Let me flip this. Let me flip this in some way.
It makes me so sad because it's like, John Hancock aside, you've got these other big YouTube personalities who are just like really like, they don't outright shit on emulation, but they always make like subtle little jabs.
Just call it out. Let's just say it as it is, man. Fuck GameSack. Just fuck them.
Yes. Fuck GameSack.
Well, like the thing is, like, I enjoy their videos because like they are like, again, they know what they're talking about. But like they always like, whenever emulation's brought up, it's like they scoff at it.
They scoff at it. All this My Life in Gaming, GameSack, they're the legitimate. They think they're at the upper echelon of the retro game collecting. They scoff at emulation. God forbid you can't afford to shell out all of your money so you can play these games on original hardware on the best possible way.
They treat everyone else like peasants.
Treat you like peasants, dude.
It makes me sad too.
And their demeanor that you see online is just I can't stand watching their videos. It just gets me angry.
It makes me really sad.
They're not genuine.
Like and it makes me really sad because, like I said, it's awesome when people who are either just getting into this hobby or because I'm part of a like retro collecting group on Facebook, and sometimes there's people who are like, wow, like I never got to. I'm really happy I got to experience this game. That like, because a lot of people there's definitely been a lot of people who, because of Panzer Dragoon Saga's sort of reputation for being this expensive game, more people have jumped on it and played it, and that's people love to see shit like that, and that's awesome.
But then there are people who would take advantage of that desire,
Yeah, and
it sucks
when you got these YouTubers who shit on people, and it's like, you have this video that's totally unrelated to Neo Turf Masters, but for some fucking reason they'll have Neo Turf Masters in the background just so they can let you know.
Look
at what I have. Look at what I have. It's like, dude,
look at my stadium events framed perfectly in the background.
Yeah. Or like if they have a video about a series, they'll put everything they have from that series, like the merch and some of the games in the background.
And it's interesting you guys bring this up because that reminds me of these people who will spend thousands of dollars on games that aren't even fucking good.
Not good at all. They're shit.
Like,
it's just garbage.
Yeah.
Fucking Action 52.
Yep.
It's like hundreds of fucking...
Cheetah 2.
Cheetah Man
2. Fucking Nintendo World Championships is just like a tech demo.
It's not good.
Like 3 games.
It's not. I mean, a lot of those NES games that command a lot of value are not good. You're better off just playing it on emulation or finding a cheap-ass repro cart.
No shit.
But I need to bring up at least one YouTuber that really brings my blood to a boil more than most, and that is beat 'em ups. I cannot stand.
I've seen like one of their videos.
You know the thing with RGT85. I can't stand RGT.
I don't like RGT85 either.
RGT85.
Dreamcast guy.
Yeah, I don't. You Dreamcast guy. Fuck Dreamcast guy. I'm just gonna say it right now. Who cares? You know
Can
what?
I say something non-gaming related about RGT? Fuck your goddamn annoying as sin thumbnails.
Yes.
Can people stop
same with
these
wood.
thumbnails?
Same with wood. The same ridiculous. Same thing with the thumbnails. And yes, RGT. One thing can't stand. I know what you do with your videos. Why they're over 10 minutes long. You do it so you can get it, on YouTube. So you
monetization.
You can monetize your fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's not even. It's the same news you can hear everywhere else. It's just rehashed over and over.
No,
Let
but
me give you 2 minutes of news and give you 8 minutes of bullshit.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy the Panzer Dragoon Saga. Someone
even
sent you
like
a mail. You're never gonna play
him
it.
and Dreamcast guy, when they talk about certain series, they act like they're super familiar with it. But like you said about Metal Jesus, they talk about it on kind of a base level.
And I don't understand.
But they try to act like the messiah of, I know these shit.
Absolutely.
What? I just wanted to continue at least with the
No,
wood
go.
topic, because the thing with beat 'em ups, he was huge with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo would give him tons of shit. He would have everything in the background, like hundreds of Switch games. Eventually, Nintendo didn't want anything to do with him because I think Nintendo caught him modding one of their games or something like that, and that's how they dropped him as being a partner. And this guy posts the most clickbaity thumbnails. He's obnoxious, and he started off humble. He started off as a humble YouTuber. I enjoyed him. I'm not saying I'm a fan of the Game Chasers. I don't like Game Chasers. But Wood on the episodes was tolerable. You kind of liked Wood. He had a good personality.
Yeah.
And I've even met him before, like Retro World Expo.
Oh, was he on
With
the show?
RGT was there as well. Before they got bigger and they were more manageable. But God, I cannot stand him. He is awful. He's not necessarily in like the retro game collecting type of thing, but he still has that influence.
Yeah.
He's someone who just gets everything handed to him. Like fans will send him packages and packages of games in mail, and he just puts on that fake smile on his face. He's like
thanks,
oh,
guys.
thank you so much, guys. You shouldn't have.
And
meanwhile, he's gonna go put it on his shelf in the background and go flip it on eBay.
And that's the thing, dude.
Terrible.
That's the thing. It's
Not
like
funny either.
I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how someone can like wake up in the morning, look at their like shiny Sega Saturn games, and be like, I want to send this to my favorite YouTuber who probably doesn't give a fuck about me, who doesn't give a
Definitely
shit.
doesn't give a fuck.
Never.
They don't remember the names of the people who sent
No,
them shit.
half the time they won't even do the common decency in mail calls to even say thanks for the name. They won't even mention you at all. They won't even read your letters.
I like
No.
like, and the thing is, I'm not gonna act like
Exactly.
I'm not gonna act like we're on some moral high ground here. However, you know, like, I do try to be very considerate when people, like, because that guy who I mentioned so much earlier in this episode about who gave me the Santa sack full of games, I felt so bad when he gave me that Mega Man X3 that I chipped in
because you knew what it was worth.
I chipped in my Fire Red copy for him, gave him something. I was like, I really do appreciate it. Like, I let him know, like, I really, really, really appreciate it. But it's like, you know, and it, like, at the end of the day, it's that person's decision to send the game. It's not like we wouldn't take it if someone sent us a copy, of course. But it's also like, it's like, why would you give your games to these YouTubers who wouldn't even they don't
give a shit.
They won't give. They won't.
It's like when fanboys
they don't
defend
even,
corporations. The corporation doesn't give a shit about you.
They don't even give them like a shout out or anything.
Nothing.
So it's just like retro collecting has just become so unfeasible now. You know, there's this.
There's one more facet of collecting that I
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
go
cover,
on.
a very niche area. So I'm very into game preservation, like the Frank Savaldi shit and that kind of stuff. Like, I think it's important that these games, like the mechanics of them, the presentation of them, what they did on their respective hardware, how they were in the time they were created. I think every game that we possibly can needs to be preserved.
Yeah.
In some form. But then you have these fucking numbskulls who buy wicked expensive rare games or demo cartridges.
And they won't dump
And they
it.
hold them. They won't let people dump them.
No, they won't dump them.
They'll hold them. They will not dump it. It's fat. About a week ago, there was this documentary some guy made about a McDonald's DS game.
Okay.
So, McDonald's had a deal with Nintendo where they would send them these DSIs with these specialized McDonald's game cards that fucking had like training games, kind of like Cooking Mama style games, but McDonald's themed. And it was like the rarest DS game ever. It was something that there were barely images of it existing. Like the most evidence we had of it was like news reports of it existing.
So what is it, like an employee training video or something?
Not a video, but a game. Like a game you would play on the DSi.
So like Cooking Mama, but with McDonald's?
Yeah, you would make the burgers and it would ask you quiz questions like how many squirts of ketchup are on this motherfucker.
That's cute.
But it was rare as fuck. Like no one had a copy.
Yeah.
Except for this one guy in France named like I forgot his name. I think Frank. I actually got in an argument with him on YouTube comments.
Really?
Yeah.
You just commented on it?
So, in this documentary, this guy talked about his story of obtaining the game himself. Before that, this guy, I'll just call him Remy. I can't think of any other name. I know that's probably very insensitive of me.
Fucking Ratatouille.
Like Ratatouille, that's what I was thinking too. We'll talk about, well,
Let's talk about Remy. Let's tell us about
his thumbnail, no, his avatar is the Rayman Rabbids.
That's kind of like insensitive to the actual Remy Gazelle who composed Rayman 1.
That's why I called him Remy,
And
though,
he
because I
passed
made
away.
that connection.
Yeah.
What do you call it, though? This guy in this forum, it's all in the documentary, I won't go into too many details.
Yeah.
But he was on this forum, he said, guys, I need the specialized password to open up this McDonald's game. Because they all had a password that the managers would set so that the people couldn't play the game when they weren't told to.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker was like, guys, I need a password for this game. And then everyone's like, oh my god, you have that McDonald's game? We never thought anyone had a copy of it. Can you please dump it? Or can you please send it to someone to dump?
Right.
He's like, guys, I'm not going to dump it. That's illegal. That's just like...
Come on.
Even everyone in the forums complaining to him, he was like, no, I can't. I'm going to get in trouble. And it's like, no, I don't pirate games. I don't send illegal copies of games to people. And in the video of this documentary, I said to the guy, don't worry about Remy having the game before you or something. Like shit like that. And I was like, I called him an idiot. I actually said he's a fucking idiot, he's selfish, and he's the reason one of the reasons game preservation is so difficult now. And he responded to me saying, I said like, he wouldn't get in trouble because it's McDonald's. They don't give a fuck.
I don't think Ronald
Anyone
McDonald...
who's made DS games doesn't give a fuck about you dumping DS games. And this motherfucker responded to my comment like, he said, well, my employer would care.
Who's your employer? Fucking Ronald McDonald? Like,
No
what's he gonna do? Be like, oh, I don't know if you should have leaked that.
But here's what's worse. In the end of the documentary, they mentioned he went into the game's code to find out how to crack the password. Like, you're gonna go into the fucking game's code, but you're not gonna dump the game.
And there's so many people who do that, withholding like games and
Yeah,
not dumping
like,
them or selling them for
important.
outrageous prices.
Like, I think there was a Fire Emblem Famicom demo that is held hostage.
Oh.
And it's like, these motherfuckers, like, again, they buy the game, they have no passion for it, and they're holding it away from people who have
like,
passion.
what are they going to gain from withholding the content?
I know. Like, what? They're just going to charge more money?
It's not like your value is going to drop now. It's like it's still going to be its own one-of-a-kind item.
Exactly.
For preservation's sake, please.
Yeah. No shit.
So, you guys want to talk about scumbags. You wanted to bring up Limited Run.
I want to fucking...
Please, Matt, please, go off on
Go off. The mic is all yours.
About a few years ago, at my old job, I was listening to a podcast where they interviewed the head of Limited Run. He was a snobby motherfucker. He was really unpleasant and mean. Like, the way he carried himself, the way he spoke, the way he talked about, like, well, no one should complain about us because we do so much hard work, blah, blah, blah. And I think one of the questions in the podcast was, like, why do you keep your games limited run now if you're popular and, like, are able to support printing more copies than you used to? And he said, you have no idea what our games cost to make. You have no idea. We have to do these limited productions because they're expensive and we need to make a return on them. And saying shit like that. I'm like, no. You know there's a market for these games. Are you telling me people don't want to buy fucking Panzer Dragoon? People don't want to buy fucking Bloodstained Curse of the Moon? People don't want to buy fucking, like... any of this shit. Streets of Rage.
Oh my god, I remember the incident I had with Streets of Rage 4.
And then another company, a competitor, makes a better package than you, and you get fucking salty. And
yeah,
you refuse to give refunds.
I got the Streets of Rage 4... I didn't know they were refusing refunds. That's terrible. Yeah, I got the Streets of Rage 4 limited run, and the... because the thing with limited run is they take a long time to actually, like, ship it out to you. Like, you're just ordering to be on the pre-order. And I got on the pre-order list and, like, literally, like, fucking, like, I'm still waiting on that Panzer Dragoon remake.
You ordered it how long ago?
Oh my god, it feels like a year ago. Yeah. But I got the limited run Streets of Rage, and lo and behold, Amazon, there was, like, this announcement where they're like, yeah, this company's making a Streets of Rage 4. And they were already out, I think. Or at least a few days from being out.
Yeah.
And the cover art looked better. Everything looked better. The production quality looked better.
And everyone was shitting on Limited Run. Like, what is wrong with you
I
guys?
was looking at Limited... I think GameSack of all the people were the ones who shat on them. Like, they
did. I remember that.
That was so funny. It's like, oh my god.
They did shit on them.
I was just like, I love this because it's like watching them of all people condemn someone else, like, in the community. That was like, wow. Like, that's hilarious.
There is a need for companies like Limited Run. Like, I talked about preservation. There is a need to have copies of these games that will last after the servers are shut down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason for companies like this. But naming your company Limited Run and doing what Nintendo does with your limited productions on purpose, that kind of defeats the purpose of even having a physical copy in the first place. You're just making more scarcity to profit off of.
No, absolutely.
Like, you're profiting... Like, the gimmick of these products is their scarcity. You're buying it because they're gonna be scarce because it's limited run.
Yeah.
And then let's just talk about the fact that the people that are getting into the limited run games are already people that are going to collect and hoard, and those games are not going to be opened up at all or played. They're mostly going to remain completely sealed on a shelf, untouched.
Yeah.
You can't even enjoy them.
It's so fun.
And it's just like all this stuff, it's like we've been talking so much just about the negativity, but the thing is, to this day, we still collect. We went to a secondhand store just before we recorded this.
Yeah, I bought some old vintage headphones.
Well, me and Y actually picked up you picked up like just a few PS2 games. I got like a bunch of long box PS1 games, and this is like the next, like, and basically I kind of want to talk about a little bit about the good side. And because we've talked a lot of negative, but there's a lot of good too. There's fan mods, there's people who preserve this. Now, in the retro community, there have been a lot of big developments.
Like translations. And,
you guys know the Atom is Wave arcade games that never got released, or outside of the arcade, obviously. they ported all of them to Dreamcast, and you can play that shit on native Dreamcast hardware, and that's really awesome. Like, I love shit like that. Stuff like that, and
Saturn Symphony of the Night just got the PS1 translated dialogue in that game now.
Right, and
awesome.
didn't they fix the slowdown and shit too?
They're working on that.
That's really cool. Like,
they're actually fixing that and the graphical issues.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like these optical disc drive emulators, for those who don't know, it's flash cards, they're playing backups, and these retro stores, I feel like they're kind of like the last bastion of hope for this hobby. Because let's be real,
they're not going to be able to charge eBay prices.
So I feel like people really underestimate the importance of a customer to employee interaction. We went to I'm not going to name the store obviously, but me and Wyatt, we frequent this secondhand store, and the guy who works there, he's super fucking nice, and he prices very fair. Like, he's not like super over, but he's not like super cheap either. He's very fair. He will cut you a deal if you buy a bunch of games and bundle them, and it's like this sense of community that I haven't felt in so long. And in a way, if you hadn't introduced me to this store, I don't know if I'd still be collecting as much anymore.
Well, that's what I'm saying. My largely, I would attribute my collection, as it's been growing throughout the past few years, to that location and the relationship that I fostered with the owner. Because I've at times even a great story was I really wanted a copy of The Misadventures of Tronbon, and I ended up just working at the store with him to pay off my copy of the game. And he even he even bought me lunch and everything. I didn't even have to pay for my own lunch. And I liked working there because I liked the environment. And I've been going there for years, and he's always been fair to me, cut me deals. Like, I wouldn't have a lot of the rare titles that I have today if not for having that relationship.
And he's like, every time I go to the store, like, he'll talk to me. Like, he'll talk to me.
It's such a warm store.
He'll talk to me like as if like I'm a friend of his, and I love that because it's like not enough stores. Like, you go, even there's a lot of secondhand retro stores that just you don't get that. Like,
a lot of them are pieces of shit.
I mean, like
you know which one I'm talking about, right?
I think the one in sale.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
Game
one.
Zone or whatever it's called. Have any of you seen the recent documentary about retro gaming, and he is in it?
He is?
Dude, they framed him to be set up as like this messiah in Salem. Like, he is like he is the retro game. Like, he's holding the community together.
So
giving
that gives him such an ego boost.
He's like looks like he gives everybody deals, and like everyone's family. Such a lie.
If you look at that copy of Alundra 2 down there, that's where I got it from, Game Zone, and it's fucking has those refurbished swirls.
Man, how much did you pay for that, dude?
I think like 40, and at the time that's still overpriced. And I think I got Croc for the Saturn for like $60. Fucking Croc, fucking.
I'd rather pay $60 for a Croc of shit.
There are these the stores that are always the best ones. Matt, we have another really great retro game store experience. It was this little store in Maine. It was just like this really.
That was an amazing. Store.
It was like this really. Wasn't it like this little old couple? It was like this little this old man and this old woman. Like they were such a sweet. Like they were so sweet, and like what's funny is we kind of got there a little late, and they were willing to stay open for us. Like we called them. He's like, we thought this was a prank call, so we just check it out.
It was
awesome. I got fucking Mickey Mania for the Sega CD with the poster.
Heck yeah.
I got Dragon Warrior 3 for the Game Boy Color for like $10.
I was able to get Toxic Crusader for NES for $27.
Dang.
Not really, I didn't buy that.
That would have been sick. But yeah, no, and I guess what I'm trying to say is they're still out there. There are stores out there, and the thing is about the one I just mentioned with I know I'm all over the place right now, but the one me and Wyatt frequent, the guy there, he straight up told me, I know what this stuff is worth, but if I can keep in business and just make people happy and talk to people about this, then that's what keeps my store going. And that's and he lives at the store too.
It's solid, yeah.
He barely has to pay any rent for the store. It's great. Like and I love that sense of community. I feel like that's the last bastion of hope for retro game collecting, and I really, really stuff like that is what makes me still want to collect. And I feel like stores really underestimate how important that is. And how they just like lose focus of like what it's about at the end of the day, and it just
and they turn into assholes.
Exactly.
And they charge eBay prices.
Yeah, and I also have to say, repros can be pretty fucking awesome at times.
Oh yeah, and you can even get ROM hacks on repro cards and like
Wyatt before he actually had a legit Panzer Dragoon Saga. You had a fan made repro from Etsy. And in a case that, and before you told me it wasn't real, I thought it was real. And a lot of these Etsy store, like a lot of these people who, because Etsy is like a lot of fan-made stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They make really well done repros sometimes. Like these aren't just like Chinese bootleg fucking Pokemon with a fake.
They're not Super Joy 3s.
There's a lot of work that goes into it. They actually make
Exactly.
quite nice artwork for your cases. They'll reprint artwork on discs. Like I know it's a burn game sometimes. You know, that's what they have to do. You can't obviously make it look just like an actual Sega Saturn game, but the effort goes into it, and when you pay like $12 for like a really nice repro, I'm kind of okay with that because I support somebody that.
I understand that like the build, like there's the quality of trying to, especially since Saturn cases are a little hard.
And you even have companies like Retrobit and Capcom re-releasing like Holy Diver and Mega Man X on cart.
Okay, but honestly,
all right, let me say something. I know Capcom charges way too much money for their Mega Man and Street Fighter reprints, but Retrobit actually it's pretty fair.
That's fair. I heard someone's Super Nintendo went on fire from that.
Yeah, I remember
so
that
they
too.
literally fucking burned their Super
Retrobit
Nintendo.
also has collections on SNES carts and NES carts, like the Data East collections, the Joe and Matt collections.
Yeah, and didn't they also make those Saturn, those brand new Saturn controllers that you can use?
Yeah, Retrobit made
Have
those.
you seen like even the game Metal Storm on the NES? They recently like the company
they
actually
did release
IRAM,
that
they
too.
released like a new cartridge that you can play on your system.
How much is it? Like, is it like $60 or?
It's something
Between
like that.
40 and 60.
Yeah, it was like a re-release just
and
to
Metal Storm's a
celebrate it.
pricey fucking
it's a good game.
If it's tested and it works, that's
and it's
awesome.
pricey as fuck, the actual card.
It's like over
Metal
$100
Storm.
bucks.
And I'll let you guys know, because as of recently, I've really been diving into I mentioned it earlier, but I want to go really hard into it. I don't like to play on emulators because I like to play on authentic hardware to get that authentic experience. But I don't always have the fucking money to drop on some of these expensive titles. So
yeah, thanks to how bad some of the market is.
But you know what's been a lifesaver for me is these optical disc drive emulators. And a lot of these companies like Terra Onion or I don't know the other ones, but like sometimes it's just one person in his fucking basement just
yeah, I remember there was the Retrode.
What's the Retrode?
So it's not a Retrochode, but it's a cartridge slot that fits Genesis and Super Nintendo games, and you plug it into your PC, and you can make your own ROM dumps with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's literally plug and play.
And stuff like that is what's really helping preserve this community.
Exactly.
And, you know...
The problem is the Retrode has been off the market for a few years. But I was just saying it is an example of that kind of thing you were mentioning.
Flashcards have been around for so long. The earliest example I've seen of it was the DSR-4.
Oh my god, I loved my DS flash card.
Back when it was a lot harder.
Before it broke.
Back when it was a lot harder to get an R4 that was... Because R4s are so easy to use now.
Oh, now they're so easy.
But being able to play backups, you know, I would never advocate playing backups on, like, your Switch or newer hardware, obviously. Because
those games are still in production.
Yeah, like, I don't think that's, like, good. Like, I'm not an advocate for that. But, you know...
When they're games that are out of production that no one's re-releasing.
If you're really gonna, like, actually go into, like, have to face this moral compass over...
it is like...
I don't know if I should play that Burn Snatcher for Sega CD.
Or if you're like fucking Remy, like, I don't make pirated games, so you're not getting your McDonald's game with like 2 copies in existence.
Oh my god.
Fucking idiot.
And like... and it's just like... I feel like there shouldn't be a question of moral dilemma.
No, there shouldn't be.
Like
Wyatt said earlier, how 3D All-Stars doesn't have the OG Mario 64.
Yeah.
Are speedrunners supposed to, like, never play OG Mario 64 ever now? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or are they supposed to run out and buy an N64 just to play that version now?
And
like...
one thing that's made me very happy as of lately is a lot of these companies like Sega, Konami, even Nintendo, they're doing...
Shockingly Konami.
They're doing these mini console releases. Like, and they're I've got it hung up in my wall there, but I've got all the mini. I actually want to show a picture because it's so cool.
Don't turn into who we're yelling about.
Look at what I have. Look at what I have that you don't.
Every time I look at that shelf, I drool. I gotta say.
It's so cool. But they made these retro throwback consoles, and you can like play like. The majority of them, except for the PlayStation Classic, which like
because that one's a piece of shit.
Yeah, no, it's a piece of
like
shit.
minimal effort. That's like if Nintendo made like an N64 classic.
Yeah.
Or no, it's Sony's 3D All-Stars, I guess is more accurate.
It's actually a lot worse. But the point I'm trying to get at is with very minimal effort, you can hook up a USB and load more games onto it, and you can play them. And it's
like on PC Engine, there are big games. They have a shit ton of great games, but they're missing like the Valis games. They're missing like the Lotus War games.
I would even argue that you don't even need to like hack a lot of these consoles. They have most of the games you want.
Yeah,
like they have even, and then you've got how fucking the Chad Sega over here. They're releasing fucking Mega Man Wily Wars.
Yeah, well, I was shocked when Wily Wars was on there.
What's that Monster World game that never got released outside of Japan?
Oh yeah, Monster World 4.
They're releasing games that were either like Japanese exclusive or
Castlevania Bloodlines.
yeah, games that you would never think would be on these consoles.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I really appreciate these efforts of preservation, and I guess it's just like it's long gone now.
Yeah, I just have to say, in some way, emulation is going to be the only future, because when all of the hardware and all of the software breaks down in like 100 years or so, when absolutely everything is gone, as far in the future as that is, we're going to have to rely on emulation to enjoy these games in any way.
And FPGAs. Like
FPGAs as well, yeah.
So,
which is like technically emulation. We're going to have like systems that we still like. But yeah, and like you were saying with playing them authentically as you can, and like pointing at the mini consoles, that reminded me of something else too. Like my setup, I literally just have my PC with like millions of ROMs on it.
Oh yeah.
But I have it connected to a CRT, and I have controller adapters to let me use my SNES, my N64, Saturn, PS1, NES controllers, all through USB. So I still have the actual like controller, and I'm still playing the actual game on a CRT.
And it's so cool those converters exist, because we had also fucked around with the TurboGrafx Mini
on the CRT.
We hooked it up. We used an AV cable converter, HDMI to AV, and we were able to play the TurboGrafx Mini on a CRT with like no input.
So
like,
it's this weird thing where like retro collecting, if you consider like collecting ROMs and playing them collecting, retro gaming is easier, and it's also harder than ever at the same time. It's harder than ever to collect, but it's easier to like play the game.
Like it's not like if you really so badly want to play a game from the PS1
it's like
era.
Music. You can get digital music easily, but if you want to collect that vinyl, it might be expensive.
Like because emulators used to be tricky to get working. Like some emulators required so like all these BIOSes you need to find and shit. But you got a lot of emulators that are just all set up for you, all ready to go now.
Yeah.
And it's become a lot more streamlined, and that is the one aspect. So, yeah, guys, this one went on for a lot longer than I thought, but
I'm happy.
I'm very happy with how this one came out too. Wyatt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
I would definitely love you to join in future episodes for sure.
Oh, certainly, anytime.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys later.
Bye. We're gonna play some